A short time ago in a galaxy nearby, a podcast was made to inspire and entertain. Casual Space. Making space available, one story at a time. Your host with grace, Beth Mund.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Casual Space this week, where my special guest is Steve from Maritime Launch Services. It's so good to see you again. I cannot wait to talk about this launch.
Oh, I thank you. Really a delight to be here. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Welcome back to the show. We've had the privilege of having you kind of unfold this for us before, so people are very familiar with this mission and what Maritime Launch Services are. So let's start with how we all came into the launch team and got all set for this launch. This was years really in the making.
Oh, it certainly was. And there's never any lack of things to track and get ready for when you're doing something this complex. But it has taken us a while to get to this point when you're pulling together payloads like yours and rockets that are coming from another country, and coordinating with spaceport regulators and airspace regulators and all our team members. It is quite a bit of planning that goes into it. And then when you get down to those last few days and hours, it seems like it's a blur.
Right. So how are you feeling?
Oh God, it was great. The rocket launches, my history goes back to my NASA days and testing rocket engines themselves. So it was a real rush back to my earlier career.
Yes.
And feeling and seeing the rocket is a really exhilarating feeling. It gives you an adrenaline rush, and just being there that day after all these years of preparations for the spaceport and having it culminate in a launch like this, it's just super exhilarating. The day, right? Beautiful blue sky, wispy clouds, a bald eagle circling overhead. No kidding, a bald eagle circling overhead.
I did not see that. So cool.
Yeah, and all these marvelous things going on, and dealing with all the I don't want to say adversity, but challenges that of getting through and getting to that launch, pushing the button and stuff. It was just magic.
It was. The word I found as I was coming home and traveling was organic, because I felt like you and I had both worked for NASA. So you've seen a few launches, certainly. I've seen a couple. And this was not a traditional launch in the sense that there's thousands of people and teams. There's still systems, procedures, and checklists and all of those things. But this seemed to be totally and unique to the Canada Spaceport that you have put together, Steve, and the team at Maritime. And so it felt organic in the sense that it was like the first, and something that just unfolded in an organic sense, rather than, if I'm being so bold, and please tell me if I'm incorrect, taking something tried and true that's been done before and trying to apply it here. It's more like it was designed for here, and that wisdom and knowledge was brought in, but the design was unique to Canada Spaceport.
That's exactly right. In Canada Spaceport and within the entire Canada launch framework. Remember, the last time they've launched even a suborbital rocket from Canada was, last century, frankly. And there isn't a lot of ground-based experience in doing it. So us bringing our NASA expertise and understanding into it and helping to grow this team and connect these dots together with the airspace, NAV Canada and Transport Canada, and the waterways and the RCMP and all the pieces that go into this puzzle was really marvelous to see that indeed organically grow together. And probably it was total mission success, but probably the best part for me was that we had all these challenges we had to deal with that were if everything had gone perfect, you wouldn't have learned as much. So the next one, we
True.
know we're going to be better, and the team has this checklist now that is getting things added to it, like the shipping container, the shipping haulers that are out in the ocean with their container ships and being in our launch zone and not moving, right? And
That was
so all
amazing.
those aspects of dealing with some of that stuff along the way, it all just added to the experience for me. It made
Yeah.
it really genuine, just to your point about organic. And it also really portends how everybody's pulling together now for the future.
Mhm. Can we talk about that for a moment? When I remember being there, there was a few mission parameters that needed to be met, and oftentimes the biggest drivers are Mother Nature, wind speed, atmosphere, visibility, and all the things that need to have a safe launch. We understand that certainly, and those are often out of our control. And I don't know that Mother Nature plays into the oceans when you're talking about humans driving ships and sailing, but it was a little bit of a surprise to me how the rocket's ready, the team's ready, Mother Nature's ready to go. And yet we have this situation. If you want to walk us through that, the boat traffic in the area in which the rocket was projected, or the schedule of it, the timing, and the area that it was going to be coming down and splashing down into the ocean needed to be clear. And so I'll let you take it from there, where one of these challenges presented itself and had to be handled.
Yeah, so indeed, when you're preparing for launch, you have to go through a flight safety analysis that really defines several things. One, how high it's going to go, how far out it's going to go, and where it's going to land in the ocean. That means that you're also then having to look at time to make air traffic. You make sure air traffic is moved out of the way. If there's an aircraft coming from Europe or going to Europe or whatever, that you've got that area cleared in the air right above you, but also with where this ballistic trajectory is going to land this rocket into the ocean, so 20 or 30 or more kilometers downrange, and so you need to make sure that that range is clear. So you come to this day, everything's moving forward, everybody's prepped. You've got the vehicle loaded onto the rail, you've got the rail tipped up, the motor is armed, the team falls back, and we're all ready to go. And we're monitoring the air traffic, it's clear, we're monitoring the sea traffic, and all of a sudden there's a ship that's coming in the way. And they're not responding. So, Transport Canada jumps into gear. They're contacting their folks to make sure that they get a communication to this boat captain to get him to move out of the way. I assume it's a he, pardon me. He or she is not answering and not listening, and just boats move slowly. I mean, with an aircraft, it's really
Mm-hmm.
predictable when they're going to be out of the airspace, and they're moving relatively quickly. But with a boat, it's kind of meandering and heading, not really following the notice to mariner area that they're supposed to stay clear of. So we're watching this thing leave, and lo and behold, another one is coming in. So as this one is leaving, another one is coming into the drop zone where
Mm-hmm.
this thing is going to come in. So now we're running out of time with our airspace, because we have to free it up at 11 to let air traffic go, because we have our notice to mariner or notice to airman time frame set too. So we were back and forth between air and water and air and water. And we have to give the airspace back to let the boat get out of the way. The boat gets out of the way. The airspace gives it back to us, and everything's ready to go. I'm running around giving people pizza because they're starving, and we're way
Yes,
past
thank you.
lunchtime.
Thanks for
So
you.
my donation to the cause. I'm a standby, right? I'm not the launch director. I'm not the range safety officer. I'm not the launch team. I'm just the lucky guy who got to be there. So
Pizza
providing
guy.
some support with
Steve.
pizza was right up my alley. Anyway, so all those things finally clear, right? And then finally, okay, we can go now. Everybody's
Yeah.
fell, back away from the launcher, and we're able to get it to that point of pushing the button. Yeah.
So, and full of pizza and
And
happy.
full of, yeah, that's right. No hangry employees at all,
Right.
right?
So, this is such a great case study of how lessons are learned in real time at missions like this. Who would have thought when they woke up that morning? Because let's be honest, nobody slept. I know I didn't. I was so excited and so eager. And we had that early morning call time and that drive up to the launch site. And we were all just probably on the edge of our seats from the moment I came to Canada. I couldn't wait for this moment. And when the moment is not yours to say, green light until it's safe and there's other factors coming in, I bet no one woke up that morning and said, the thing that will keep us from launching will be this one particular ship that can't move out of the zone. And you just learn that. You learn that as you go. And so in your next launch, that will
Mhm.
be something that you'll know how to handle. And you learn every time you do this. And this is just the beginning, which makes it, again, so organic and exciting because each part of this journey has been a lesson learned from both teams. And let's talk about who the teams are. Certainly
Mhm.
the host site with Maritime, of course, and the beautiful, beautiful location that has been built and such a great place. I was taken aback with the beautiful like scenery around in the ocean and the rocky land around and the beauty of it all against the engineering marvel and the sharp contrast of what has been built there. And the teams that came in from the Netherlands are partner teams with T Minus Engineering, who are just the most incredibly fun, jovial people I've ever met.
Mhm. Mhm. That part really was a wonder for me as well. The joy that they seemed to go through every step of the way. The fact that they had built this little descanso, if you're familiar with the term, where there had little Dutch shoes and memorabilia all in this
Yeah,
little area with candles lit and stuff. And they're hungry, but they're not angry. They're out there having a good time
true.
and they're just into the moment. And I just got a note from Mark earlier today, who led their team. They had such a blast, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, that's the part I think was the most fun because Yaroslav, our team lead, the launch director, with his years and decades of experience, former astronaut, fitting into this and all these different experiences and the young kids that have joined our team. And all this thing integrating together was just a delight to see. And for me, I didn't see any of this team building over the previous few days. I was at that conference in Ottawa. I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
in the night before, almost 11 o'clock, and drove 2 a.m. to get out to the launch site to be there. So to me, to walk up and witness this team building experience and see it all just roll out in front of me, and no, I didn't sleep either. Uh, it was genuinely a pleasure to work with that team. For they're such a delight.
You definitely have the right people in place. I was so impressed. And from top to bottom, from everyone had their place and their purpose. And I even got to meet some of the Transport Canada team who had amazingly wise people who knew how to navigate, the water, the air, the wind, the mother nature part of the equation.
Mhm.
All of these things have experts who are bringing their wisdom and previous flight knowledge and yet coming at it just as we all were for the first time as well with the the ability to be able to kind of be very fluid in the moment, I should say, to be able to make tough calls and say, let's wait, let's hold, let's proceed. I felt like everyone was able to be in the right place because of their job and their wisdom and their ability to apply that. So you have a great team.
Well, I thank you, and it does really reach across to the Transport Canada standards and operations team for sure. Their ability to adapt real time. That's not something you learn in a book. That's not something that you can read. It's not prescriptive that you can follow. It is a real time assessment, and it is first and foremost about safety and making sure that you're considering all those aspects as you move this thing forward. If you were to try to follow some recipe of prescription through this thing, you probably never get to the launch. You'd run out a day or whatever it is. So it takes that some real time adaptation and some step back and be patient time to make sure things play through to that optimal point for launch. You're absolutely right. I started this with a concept of this is what the commercial space market needs. We need a location that's not a government range that can serve commercial clients. We have commercial rockets, we have commercial satellites doing commercial business. Why don't we have why don't we have commercial spaceports versus all the government ranges that are out there? So it all really began like that. It's an obvious thing the market needs and finding the right rockets and everything else. And now it's just really turned into something much more passionate about helping Canada reach a sovereign launch capability that they have not had before, having done something that hadn't been done in 25 plus years, trying to move this thing forward towards orbital launch and the need for our own sovereign launch capability in this country has really become an important feature for us as a team. We recognize now that the things we're doing was a great idea before and we're moving it forward. But now there's a sense of there is some history being made with each of these steps along the way. And I'm really proud of this team that we've pulled in and collected to do this, that have really participated, and their enthusiasm, their passion, their dedication to this thing is really what it's all about.
You bet. And congratulations. Let's talk launch. So we're excited. We're there. We're finally at the T minus 30 minutes, and let's take it from there. What were you feeling? And were you cold?
Not at that point. I had found my warm spot with the sun because the sun was out. I mean, it was finally starting to warm up enough that I wasn't shivering in my coat. And I found a spot next to the building. So I wasn't on the launch tower. It wasn't my role, even as CEO, whatever. That's not my place during a launch. If I was a launch director, it'd be a different story. But having everybody fall back and get into their final positions and making their final checks, final checks on airspace and getting that final go to launch is all part of that buildup. It's an orchestra that's all been coming together, and Yarko's the conductor. He's doing this thing. He's got all these people feeding into this, and he gives that final go. Range safety officer gives a final go, and then it's just silence. You're waiting for that few seconds for the light. And with a solid rocket motor, it's just that simple. There is just this rapid firing of this rocket. The cloud poofs out, and this vehicle is gone. It's so different from a liquid propulsion system because the NASA space shuttle launches. There's a big rumbling, and it's sitting on the pad, and flames are happening, but it's still sitting on the pad. Seems like forever before the thing slowly lifts off. Well, the solid rocket, it's gone, right? It is just out of sight in a matter of seconds, milliseconds, frankly. And then it's just watching that trail of smoke going up in the sky as that thing heads towards the sun, basically.
That's exactly what I thought, was how fast and how surprisingly loud that was. And in the moment I saw it ignite, I already saw it in the atmosphere. It went from like 0 to 60,000 in like a millisecond, like you said. I could hear the gasp, and we were all so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. But I also felt the immediate reaction and a few choice words from some folks behind me that were totally taken aback from the power and the speed and the sound, which I think was a little bit of a surprise for me. I had never seen a solid rocket only fueled rocket. And so for this instantaneous, like lit and gone, it just took me aback. It was quite the sight.
And feeling that rumble as well, feeling that in your chest as that thing is leaving, the sound is a pressure wave, right? And knowing that pressure wave is hitting you in that second, and you're feeling that. So there's all the senses are lit up, right? There's hearing, there's the vision, but there's also the physical feeling of this thing leaving because it's actually moving, pressure waves of air as this thing is going. So it's a totally sensory experience and a real adrenaline rush. And your heart's beating and blood's flowing, and
Totally.
yes, you hear people making all sorts of woot sounds and
Yes, yes.
and commentary along as this thing takes off, and that certainly takes me back to some of the shuttle engine testing that I've done in my earlier part of my career, and the feeling that rumble. It was a total throwback for me to my shuttle era
Yes.
days. So
That's so great. In my mind, I was silently like screaming, yeah. But I just took it in and I was more like taking my breath back. And then there was this little part for me, Steve, that was the payload for stories that there was a special place in my heart where it's like, there it goes. Like to
yes.
think about the hundreds of students, stories, storytellers, public people, songwriters, lyric poems that have all connected through this launch opportunity. And then to see it, it's like, gosh, I wish I could have shared this moment with everyone who had sent a story. And in a way, we'll be able to do that. There'll be that moment and let them see that their story has taken this journey. And this journey is a huge success. This launch demonstration is so profound. And when people connect their idea or their story or their original solution for how we're going to advance in space, and then they see it advance in space, it's just so full circle moment. And for me, seeing that as a payload was truly amazing. Again, something I wish the whole, world and every storyteller could see and share, but they will. And they know, they know.
That was really that was probably the one thing that I was most pleased about was being able to put in a payload that speaks to our youth and our kids. It's such a passion project for me since my early days with NASA, doing that, going into the schools and taking a piece of space shuttle tile and talking to kids and getting them excited and being a part of that experience and getting to renew that with Maritime Launch Services is super important to me. I've done a little bit in the schools, helping these kids understand what's going on in their backyard. But
Yes.
this is a different level, right? This is about really connecting these kids with the world we live in the universe we live in, and where they fit into this. What to me, it's just gets people looking up at the sky, looking up at the stars, and realizing how immense the cosmos is, and how important they are in that story is really profound for me. And I'm really grateful for your team and all the work that you did to bring that payload to us. I know that wasn't a super easy falling off a log thing to do. It took a lot of work and time on your part to pull together and to let these kids know this opportunity existed. For me, okay, I sent it to a few schools around the way, not knowing what they would do. I think my grandson in Hawaii got his story put on there as well. But just that idea of getting these kids this opportunity to do it, we should do it again. That's what I think. So why don't we? We're going to bring T
Oh,
minus
thank
back
you.
out. We're going to bring T minus back out. They feel like they have some unfinished business and they want to do this again. They learned a lot and want to try again. My guess it'll probably be July of this next year. But if we have some kids out there with some stories and some other follow-on stories that they want to share, I'd be delighted to fly them.
We would be honored. That is so wonderful. And thank you, Steve. It was such a pleasure and an honor to be the payload and to see in those kids when you see that they light up and they get connected to space in a way where they're like, wait a minute, the thing I'm going to write right here in class will be on the rocket. And they just their whole world changes, and they think that there is a way in which their future in space can happen. What a gift that maritime launch services can give and provide. And then what a gift to be connected to that right there in their backyard, because it's also an opportunity for them to learn so much more than just about the story's journey. They get to learn about the rocket. They get to learn about aerospace dynamics, engineering, and then who knows what that means for them and their future endeavors and what they get to study. It just kind of opens the door and invites that for them. So we would be honored. I think that would be fantastic.
I did want to say something to the kids in particular that did all those drawings. Something that we talked about them learning from us. I learned from them. All these graphics that these kids had and the rockets that they drew. What struck me was they all had a window on them to look out. Right? There was this important part that these kids are thinking about looking out of the rocket as it's going into space. It wasn't just a closed rocket going into space. There was a real thought process about being a part of this and being in it themselves. You could see them placing themselves in this rocket, looking out the window and watching the curvature of the Earth or whatever it is that you might see on a mission like that. And I just had to mention that. It was really
I'm glad you did, Steve. I stole two. I brought two back. I picked two of my favorites. All the rest are with you. They're in your hands, and you, as they should be. But you're right. Each one has a window, and I noticed that too. I'm so glad you said that. Here's another favorite. I love this one. Another window right there. You're right. And it really does say something. And when we look at the database of the stories in total, you are so spot on. Most stories are self-reflecting, and they're near future, meaning not long distance future or decades from now, but like I went to space today, or I just got back from space. These students are seeing a world in which space is already accessible to them, which I think is fantastic, thanks to launches like this and success. I'm so glad to hear you're going to take that Christmas break. So well deserved. Once again, Steve, congratulations to you and the team at Maritime. It was such a pleasure to come to your beautiful country and that beautiful, amazing spaceport that I know will only continue to grow and scope and serve your launch clients in such a great way. So let's do this again together after the holidays when you launch again in late spring, summer, and we'll take it from there and have even more stories to share.
Look forward to it. That sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Good luck.
If you enjoyed this episode, give it some stars by rating and reviewing it on your podcast platform. Embrace the space. Casual space.